trials really are only for a time.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful, that when I'm facing stuff, to go, you know what, this isn't the time to flake out. This is the time to really lean on God.
I think for Paul, his secret, which was no secret once again for us, as we read about his life, is that he knew that his life was not his own.
I can't imagine the level of endurance that would say, let me go back into the lion's den again. Hey there, Crossroads. We are back for Acts Chat, chapter 14, renewed endurance. Speaking of endurance, there's a lot of longness on your chin there.
A little
Austin.
bit.
Yeah.
I was tired of people still thinking I was 18, so now they'll think I'm, 22. So.
I was wondering if I could borrow some of it for the top. There's pictures floating around of me when I was younger, and there's proof that even as a baby, I had more hair than now.
Beautiful head of hair.
Patrick, right? You've seen it.
We'll do Crossroads plugs soon, I guess. It'll coming soon to campus pastors near you.
So I'm the only beardless wonder on the podcast today, the interview. So,
Sure.
Pastor Uppy, Pastor Austin, good to see you guys.
Good to be back.
And we've been enduring on this podcast 14 weeks now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
15 technically if we include the welcome one. That
Right.
was great. And I love that this is the story of Paul and Barnabas. In verse 3, it says, but the apostles stayed there a long time, preaching boldly about the grace of the Lord. And you kind of go, well, did they stay the course? Well, verse 22, they go on and it says, they were strengthened the believers. They encouraged them to continue in their faith, reminding them that we must suffer many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. And if you've been watching, no hardships, just joy here, but we're going to talk about endurance. So, Epi, for you, you've been kind of running some races and some distance and stuff like that over the last couple of years. Endurance is a part of running.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I run, I only have one gear. It's first gear,
through.
and then I pop it into neutral. And so
Every race is a good race when it's downhill.
Yeah.
And so we get to look at these great early leaders of the church and discover what was it for them to walk this long journey, long obedience in the same direction. Somebody wrote a book called that. So for you, how old are you again?
41.
41. You've been a believer for how long?
Since I was 16.
16. So you've been walking this faith for a while. You've had consistency. You've had putting the stuff to work. It's a hard thing. What's your secret to endurance of faith?
I don't think I have a secret. I wish I did. I think since you're putting me on the spot, I didn't know about this question right here. The quote that comes to my mind is, God's faithfulness in the past demands our trust for today. And so I remember when I was 16 years old, I struggled a lot with depression, and I actually tried to end my life.
Wow.
And but I remember I had a God moment in that time, and so I haven't been back to that depth of depression or sadness. But when I do feel sadness, rejection, betrayal, what you name it, I always remember that night when I felt the presence of God for the first time. And I remember He was faithful then. He'll continue to be faithful throughout my days.
Wow.
So there's no secret.
That's powerful, though.
It is.
And I think for some people that might be a new revelation to hold on to what God has done and use that as momentum for what God will do. I love that quote. As we dive into this specific passage here, we're seeing Paul and Barnabas on this journey and staying the course. I know for me, there are a lot of times I just want to give up. Probably every day. There's some challenge that I face that I'm just like last night I'm pulling out a conduit in our house of old wire, and I'm going, it's in steel, and I can't get it to break apart and stuff like that. So I'm like, it's 11:30 midnight, and I'm going, I got to get this out because it's got to come out. So I finally just go, I'm going to bring out a saw with a metal blade on it and just cut it off, right?
Naturally.
But I was so ready to just give up because the challenge seemed like it was impossible to solve.
Yeah.
Austin, for you, you never feel like giving up. You're like the Energizer Bunny, right?
No, I'm afraid that's not the case.
Oh, okay. So for you, I asked Effie like, what was his secret to endurance? What keeps you going?
I think for me, a lot. It's very similar to what Pastor Epi said. He said it in a much pithier way, and I really like that quote for sure. But it's the same thing of just seeing God's faithfulness in my life. Over and over and over, and understanding that trials really are only for a time. Now, I'm a little bit younger than both of you guys, but I've already gained some perspective that way of I've been through several things that I thought never were going to end, and they did.
Wow.
And God brought better things on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful, that when I'm facing stuff, to go, you know what, this isn't the time to flake out. This is the time to really lean on God. And I think that's for me what it is God's humbled me to the point that there are times in my office, in my bedroom, in the shower, fall on my knees and just cry out to God. And he somehow, even when I'm in that moment, feeling giving up, God, you're not in this. I've completely screwed up. Everybody else is doing this. He always comes so tenderly. And gives me the strength to continue on.
Yeah. I had this professor at college who would say this, and he would go, if you're facing bad times, as a pastor, when you're in ministry, you're going to experience that. If you're a business person, you're going to experience that. He said, no matter what you end up doing, you may have gone to Bible college, but no matter where that applies, you're going to hit hard times. He goes, just remember this too shall pass. Yes. And he goes, by the way, when it's good times, also remember that this too shall pass. So celebrate that and enjoy it. But I think one of the secrets for me that is so significant is the band of brothers, or the people that I walk with. And we see that for Paul and Barnabas as a big part of Paul's journey. We were talking beforehand, and you had highlighted Paul goes through some really rough stuff here. I think most of us have not experienced the level of persecution he is in this moment. So what was like Paul's secret here when it came to the people around him?
What was Paul's secret for those that are around him? I think for Paul, his secret, which was no secret once again for us as we read about his life, is that he knew that his life was not his own. And so he says, until I go home, the mission is still on. But also the beauty is that I think what helped even Paul, because he couldn't do it by himself, was to have community, was to have that group of people around him. We talked about it previously about having Barnabas, that son of encouragement. Maybe he had the word just to lift his sails and say, speak grace. Like, I don't know if Paul ever struggled with regret of breaking up so many families and bringing people to jail, the shame, and yet to have someone like Barnabas speak grace. But then having someone like Silas and Timothy to come alongside him as well, saying, look at him as a mentor, like, what do we do now? Calling him to step into that position and lead by example. And yet we see also, in the middle of chapter 14, Paul just got stoned. And, they knocked him out pretty good. Yeah. And I think it's verse 19, it says, but Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and having persuaded the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing that he was dead. Now, pause real quick. What would that look like? Like, is his tongue sticking out of his mouth? Is he bleeding all over the place? We don't know. But verse 20, but when the disciples gathered about him, and I just wanted to pause right there, because even in the devotional that I wrote, there's a pause. Like, when the disciples came and they saw this man that may have looked dead, bleeding all over the place, bruised, what would they do? What would they say? Would they, hey, Paul, remember what you said in Romans? He didn't write it at that time. But but would they have prayed for him? Would they say, come on, Paul, you can do it, get back up? We don't know. Yeah. But they had that ministry of presence of being there at least with them in his time of need.
Yeah. And I love that it goes on, but as the believers gathered around him, he got up and went back into town.
Right back at the danger.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So it was like I can't imagine the level of endurance that would say, let me go back into the lion's den again.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back into the place because what I have is so special for them.
Mm-hmm.
To have that kind of love and compassion for people that are wanting death to you, that's like pretty revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, when you think of the people around you who are encouraging you, lifting you up, for those who are walking alongside you, how do you walk that out in community?
Yeah, this is so important, and it's something that's so lacking, I think, in general in our society these days, is having these people around you. And I think it should be a mark of the Christian. I think Christians are called to be in communion with one another. We're not to live this faith out. Yes, we're to live it out personally, but not exclusively that way. So, for me, I have a wonderful family. By the grace of God, pretty much all of my extended family that I know are believers. And so I just grew up surrounded by parents, siblings, aunts and uncles, cousins. And that's a huge deal for me because they're people who understand the Christian walk. They understand the church life, but they're not directly in what I'm in. And so it's sort of a haven that I can go to rest on them, to receive that encouragement, to receive that guidance, all sorts of different things that they're able to provide that way. So, but then I've got friends at church, my two elders in particular, that I lean on, and some people that just, don't be afraid to go to people. That's what it is for me. I had to learn that, and that's how I walk it out now.
Yeah, can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
You mentioned my running back in the day, about a year ago, and and I look at this verse right here. Once again, these are nameless disciples.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how educated they are. We don't know how long they've been with Paul. We don't know nothing. Maybe they're learning how to pray, but they ministered so much to Paul that he was willing to go back. I love what you said, back to the lion's den. And I remember one race I was with Pastor Rich, and I bet him. I said, hey, if I beat you, I get to preach tonight. And he just, for some reason, the power of God came upon him, and he ran super fast. And I was locked into first gear. And so I remember it was actually an 8-mile run, and I'm at almost the halfway point, and I wanted to give up because I'm exhausted and I'm tired, and I had to go this huge hill. So I decided to call my oldest son. And I'm weeping. I'm just thinking about this. I'm starting to weep again because I'm like, the reason why I'm trying to get fit, the reason why I'm trying to get better is because I want to live a long life to be with you and your brother and sister.
Yeah.
And I told him, can you just talk to me? Can you? And he's like, come on, Dad. You got this.
Aww.
You got that. I'm like, shut up. Running as hard as I can. And so it's appreciating that, for the journey, for the race, whatever, that encouragement can come from people who are educated, not educated, people that know what they're talking about, or just people that are just there.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think for me, what I get out of this is, we're taught both as pastors, but in leadership as a whole, that leadership is the loneliest place. But that's not what we see here. And I think sometimes we go, the higher you go up, the less you can trust to be open, the less you can be available, the less you can share your life with people, the more perfect you have to be, the more you have to, whatever that is. And, as I hear you unpack it, as I hear both of you sharing the story of how it's ministered to you, I look at it and go, maybe that's not God's design for leadership. Maybe that's not, as leaders or pastors or moms and dads, when we're feeling alone on the journey, maybe that's us being outside of God's best for us. And maybe we can reshape how leadership looks moving forward, whether you are in a place of church leadership, business leadership, but even in the home. Not feeling like that journey has to be done in the solitude of self. Sometimes it's me and God, we're going to take this world, but it's not what we see. Paul, the hero of the faith in this story, needed some friends. And I think that no matter what level of leadership, no matter what we're called to, there's moments of hardship and solitude. There are moments of feeling alone and isolated. But the reality is that the vast majority of time, you see Paul, there's always at least someone with him.
Mm-hmm.
There's always somebody walking with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing gift to remember that God didn't design us to do this alone.
Yeah, and it's tagging along what you're saying there, Mike. If we read this fast, we can see how we can assume that Paul had the strength, he had the goal, he had the know-how, like, I'm just going to go out there. But if we take our time, we see the community there. Yeah. And so for the believer that's watching this, hey, you don't have to muscle through life. You don't have to muscle through your walk with God. You can limp. Yeah. And the beauty of this is to be reminded as you slow down is to depend on your community, your life group, your church, your campus, wherever, that, hey, they will pray for you. They will encourage you, give you the words of life, and get you back into the lion's den. I know it sounds crazy, right? Yeah. But you won't be, a bloody mess.
Well, I mean, you could put it a different way and say, we all have to return to the rat race sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
And if we're going back to it, we can do it with God.
Yep.
We can do it in community. We can do it with each other. Well, we're going to wrap it here for this week, but do not stop just with this conversation. Pastor Eppy's given you some great resources, some guides, some videos that you can go deeper into Acts 14 and beyond. If you've missed the previous weeks, I encourage you, go back and review some of the previous chapters and go a little bit deeper, because it is a journey of endurance, and it requires a lot of faith, and the faith requires us to continually come back to God. So get back into the Word, spend some time this week, and be refreshed by our loving God who knows you, who desires you, and wants the best for you. If you haven't already, subscribe over at YouTube, follow us on Facebook, connect up with us, and never miss one of these episodes as we move forward and explore what God has for us as a church and for our community through the book of Acts.